All right, welcome in. Good afternoon live here, part of the Maize and Blue review. We're here weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports, and it won't be long, and we will hear the Detroit Tigers. It's about just over 2 weeks, and the play-by-play voice on the radio for the Tigers joins us here on Afternoon Live, and you see him if you're watching here. That is Dan Dickerson who joins us. How you doing, Dan?
I'm great, Dennis. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. You know, for the Michigan fans, you've started. Well, I don't know if you started out, but at one time you were the sideline reporter
Right.
for Michigan football. I wanted to ask you if there was there ever a thought when you were doing sideline reporting that one day maybe you would be the voice of Michigan football? I know your wife wouldn't have liked that, but was there ever a thought that you would have been the voice of the Wolverines?
Well, just so fans know, I mean, in the early 90s, both WWJ, the all-news station, and WJR had rights to Michigan football and basketball, which was, think about how unusual that was. And I was a WWJ, so I was doing sidelines when they did their football coverage. Dale Conquest was the announcer. And then it went exclusive to WJR. I left WWJ, went to JR. I was a news sports guy. I went full-time sports in 95, doing sidelines that fall for those broadcasts. And so think about this. Think how strange things can be in your career, right? Frank Beckman's doing Tiger baseball. There are 5 games that have to be covered before he comes back in October. I guess there was never any worry that the Tigers were actually going to go to the postseason back in the 90s. No. So there was somebody who had those 5 games. He had to be replaced after 2 games. And that's when I got what I consider the biggest break of my career. My boss, Chuck Swirsky, was asked to do it because he was the voice of Michigan basketball. He's like, no, I'd given him a tape. And he goes, no, I want Dan to do it. He's ready to do this. So he gave me my biggest break. I go from a guy who used to do some high school basketball and football in Grand Rapids to a guy calling a major sport in a major markets. And I did that for several years running while Frank continued to do Tiger baseball. So, and there's, my wife wasn't a professor at Michigan State yet, so it was okay. But it's still one of the funnest things I've ever done. I mean, calling a college football game on a Saturday afternoon in the fall in Michigan, I'm not sure it gets a whole lot better than that.
No, and I think it's one of the most famous pictures, certainly one of the greatest plays in Michigan football history, 1997, up in Spartan Stadium, East Lansing. Yeah, you're doing it. Charles Woodson went up, had that interception on the sideline, and if you look close at that picture, you can see you're standing there, and you have that look. You're kind of just looking up in the air like, wow.
It all happened so fast. I remember thinking, did I just really see that? That's where you need the replay. It's like, what? Did I? Yeah. I think I was too close to it. I don't think I appreciated it enough standing right there.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was on the other side of the stadium. I was like, wow, that had to be Woodson. Let me take you to this baseball season. Just over 2 weeks to go here, and I was trying to figure out over the last day or so just what the expectations should be for this team. And the White Sox won 93 games last year. Is that legit to think that the Tigers could compete for first place in the Central, or should fans be concentrating maybe on second place, which doesn't sound like something that fans would do? But you also have, the wild card. And I looked, last year the Yankees and Red Sox both won 92, and then you have 2 more, and it was the Jays and the Mariners. They had won 91 and 90. But over in the NL, the Reds and the Phillies, 83 and 82 wins.
Yeah. So one more in each league, right?
Yeah, one more in each league. So
right. So no, I think you don't aim to sneak in as a wild card. The goal is win the division this year. There's no question about that. There was no team above 500 other than the White Sox last year. I see those are the projected wins, I'm guessing, in Vegas.
Those are the projected wins there. Yeah. You have the old.
That's all right.
There, yeah.
I always, they're all computer generated. And I get it. I mean, they have to set a win total. Fangraphs does the same thing. Everybody has a projected win total. That's only up a game and a half, a win and a half from last year. I just think that, those are models. They are based on what you have and what the guys that you have are projected to do this year. And it just doesn't ever take into account. You can't, for instance, project a San Francisco Giants year like they had last year coming out of nowhere, right? And I'm not saying the Tigers are going to come out of nowhere and win 107 games, but it doesn't, just how the pieces come together can't be judged by a computer. And AJ Hinch knows how to put the pieces together as well as anybody I've ever seen. You got 77 wins out of that team last year. You've added a lot of talent, starting with, first move of the offseason, Tucker Barnhart, Gold Glove catcher. Guess why? Because AJ Hinch wants a Gold Glove catcher, leading the staff. Baez, Rodriguez, Pineda, Chafin. He's got more talent to work with. So it's always very risky to try to guess win totals. I think a good exercise for fans is, if you can try to predict how many runs they'll score, how many runs they'll allow. That's a good little exercise. If you can do that, there's a direct relationship, right? If you're plus 70, you're plus 80, now you're approaching 90 wins probably. I've seen some people try to do it by predicting WAR, wins above replacement. Yeah. I've tried that. Good luck trying that. But
I remember. Oh, go ahead.
That's a good way to do it. I mean, how much better will this offense be? Can they get to 780, 800 runs? Can they cut their runs allowed, which they did dramatically last year, but they should have? I'm talking about from the last full season of 2019. How much more can they cut that? AJ Hinch wanted better defense. He's got better defense this year. It's everything from Baez at short to Barnhart behind the plate to whoever's in center field, even Spencer Torkelson at first base. Those are all major upgrades. Scope back at second base is an upgrade. And I think it's all about run prevention. Your offense has to be good enough. But look what the Cleveland Indians did for so many years with their run prevention under Terry Francona. Every year, it's between 630 and 660. That's amazing, as all the names have changed. So it's about pitching and the defense. And that's where I think the Tigers are going to make a huge improvement this year. So if you want me to guess, it's going to be above 85 wins. But the goal, to get back to your question, win the division. And it starts on opening day. You've got to play better in the Central. They were not good in the Central. They had a losing record against every team in the Central. And those are 76 of your 162 games. And you've got to show that you can beat the teams that are ahead of you, in this case, the Chicago White Sox.
And they get to show it against the White Sox the opening day, just over 2 weeks. Chicago comes in for 3 days. I tried that exercise, I think, 3 years ago. And as I was doing it, I remember listening to you, I think in the spring, and you're like, the Minnesota Twins, there's really no way that they'll be able to do this with the pitching and the amount of runs scored. And then they were a huge shock because they had no projection that they would be able to do this. And they pitched.
They won 100, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was crazy. It was crazy. Now, you mentioned Torkelson, the decision to have Spencer Torkelson and Riley Greene, whether it'll be Torkelson on first and Greene in center. With the Tigers on April the 8th, what is the decision already been made? Is it close to being made? What do you think is going to happen over this 2 weeks?
No, I just think it's AJ Hinch is saying all the right things. I think in the offseason it was, hey, the spotlight's going to be on you guys. Let's see how they handle the pressure. AJ Hinch is a big believer, like watching the mini camp that they had for guys who aren't on the 40-man roster, which included Torkelson and Greene. He really likes watching guys. How do they handle themselves on and off the field? How do they interact with their teammates? How do they carry themselves when the veterans arrive in the clubhouse? It tells him a lot. And I think he's really liked what he's seen from these guys. The minicamp helped them be a little more prepared than guys who are on the 40-man who couldn't get the benefit of those minicamp at-bats, even if there was just live BP. So I think, to me, my feel is he's talked about, someone was asking about Spencer Torkelson yesterday. It's like, isn't his plate coverage amazing? And he was kind of like, well, yeah, he was a 1-1. This is what you expect from a guy who's drafted first overall. So my sense is they both make it, unless something, Torkelson obviously had a tough spring last year, but again, he hadn't played in a while, right? So, and they would have to hit their way off, not hit their way on. I think they've already shown enough that barring something unforeseen, I think both make the opening day roster.
I keep seeing their names on the lineups and everything in these spring games, and I know that everybody's excited about opening day. But if those two guys' names were in the lineup, that would just I think make it out of sight for the fans
and for this team. I'm telling you, I mean, the veterans want these guys here. They see the talent. They know what the upside is. They know what they add to this team, and that's I think kind of exciting to see how excited some of them get. I mean, Mickey said it. Hey, I hope I want him on this team. AJ's like, come on, tamp it down just a little bit. Give me a little bit of space to make a decision here. But it would send a jolt of excitement through the clubhouse and through Tiger, the Tiger fan base.
I got some quick hitters for you. You mentioned AJ Hinch. When will you see him again?
AJ Hinch, I'll see him tomorrow morning.
All right. Well,
question for him?
Well, yeah, I've made up the lineup here for you. You can go ahead and hand this one into him if you want to see it. I don't know what you think of it.
Well, it's a good discussion to have because we were actually kind of kicking some things around off the record after the media session in Tampa the other day, and it's never read anything into his lineups in spring because he's just trying to get guys at bats. But it is an interesting topic of discussion because for the rookies, you're probably not going to throw them into the top of the lineup to start, right? These are eventual middle of the order top four. Your top four hitters in the top four spots, right? And these are going to guys who are both going to be in the top four spots, not to start. So what does a lineup look like? I think against righties, all right, let's just go against a right-handed starter, right? That's 2/3, 3/4 of your starts. Grossman, Baddoo, or Baddoo, Grossman. He does like Baddoo against lefties in that leadoff spot. And I'm telling you, Akil Baddoo, I can't wait to see what he does this year because this he could be special. So then you've got, so let's call it Grossman, Baddoo, or Baddoo, Grossman. 3-spot, Baez or Cabrera in some order.
Okay.
Candy, I've got him probably hitting 5th behind Baez and Cabrera. That puts, Scope down to 6, which is, it's going to be a little different for him. But again, I think this is where AJ Hinch is so good. He has these conversations with guys. You don't want a veteran to ever think he's being disrespected by dropping him down in the order when Scope hit second so much last year. But that's kind of my feel now. So then Greene, now we're down to 7-8, right? And doesn't it seem weird to say that you would have Greene, Torkelson 7-8? But you know what? To start, I think that would certainly be possible. I think we'll see eventually Riley Greene in that 2 spot, Torkelson in the 3 spot. That's not going to happen right away. Hit him lower. I think he said Carlos Correa hit 7th and 8th for him his rookie season in Houston because he had the guys ahead of him. He's had the conversation with Miguel Cabrera that at some point, when there's somebody better than you, you're going to be moved down. And that's why, probably not 6 to start, but at some point he moves down. So then you've got, so if that's 7-8, and then Tucker Barnhart would be 9. Now, think about it if, there's a lefty on the mound. Greene's going to play against lefties. Baddoo probably sits. Haas goes in. It's a really fascinating debate because at some point, if Greene and or Torkelson gets off to a hot start, they're not going to be hitting 7th and 8th for long. They may not be hitting 7th and 8th to begin with, but I just couldn't figure out how you get them higher given the veterans that they have right now.
Yeah, I thought it was hard to do as well. When it's a tough exercise, you start thinking about
right
there. And I liked Cabrera in between the two rookies. It felt like it felt like a good spot because Miguel, whether you're talking about protection or what you're looking at, and you just have the two guys kind of bookends in there. I don't know.
The other thing to remember, AJ Hinch, I think, was the manager who used the same number of lineups the fewest number of times of any manager, and he was very proud of that, by the way. He will tinker with it every single day. And the guiding thing for Tiger fans when it comes to pitching, when it comes to hitting, it's all about the matchups that day or that at bat for pitchers when they're coming into games. So if there's a good matchup and he feels like Riley Greene in the 4th game of the season really fits in that number 2 spot, and Baddoo maybe drops down, so you have your second leadoff hitter in the number 9 spot, maybe he does that. It'll be, put it this way, there will be variety every day.
Well, we've seen that with Hinch in the bullpen too. Like you'll see, you can see Soto in the eighth, and so we'll expect that with the lineup too. Great stuff, Dan. I wanted to ask you. I think you got your Twitter page up there. There's also a part you're live on Cameo. Is that still going on? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I was asked last year, and I didn't want to really do it. I guess I just didn't like the idea of making connections with fans, making it transactional. You know what I mean? And then I saw Dick Bramer with the Twins donated all of his money to nonprofit. He's got a foundation. I think it's ALS. And so I thought, well, I can get that's an easy thing to do. I'm up at Michigan State. I teach a short course there, and my wife Lori Ann's been there for more than 2 decades. And I thought, well, why don't we because we certainly saw during the pandemic that when everybody had to go Zoom, the inequities in our society were exposed. So she certainly saw that up at school. So anyway, long story short, I thought, well, why don't we just start a fund for students in need in the broadcast journalism department. She's started a terrific Spartan Sports Report broadcast wing of the journalism department up there. So that's what we're doing. All the money that I raise goes to kids in need, and it could be, whatever it might be, so that they can maybe don't have to work that second job, to stay in school, and they can go cover things like a journalist, and they don't have to say, no, I can't do that tonight because, I have to work my job, whatever it might be. So, and I've really enjoyed it. I really have, because you get these requests from fans who go back a long way, or maybe they're newer to, they're younger. And you can text back and forth that they have maybe a certain request. Hey, can you be sure to mention this? And then I'll say, well, what is that, the significance of that? I've really enjoyed it. I'm approaching, I think I've done almost 100 now. And it's been great. I'm really glad that I did it.
Well, it's neat and a unique way to go about things. If you're looking for a present for somebody that likes the Tigers, they would love it. So go to Dan Dickerson's Twitter page. If this is something that's not familiar with you and you are a Tigers fan, you're like, oh, wait a second. For your favorite fan in your life, it'd be great. Well, great stuff, Dan. I kept you longer than I said I was going to. I'm looking forward.
Hey, Dennis, that I'll come on anytime with you, and I love talking baseball with you. I miss seeing you at the ballpark. Get out there this summer, will you?
Well, it's been too long. It's been over 2 years. It's amazing to say that. I usually wouldn't go 2 weeks without going to the ballpark. So I miss it. I know that is going to be. I know they're going to have 213 away from Miguel Cabrera, so they'll still have that signage up out there in left center. But any subtle additions or major additions? I know they were being talked about a little bit that you've heard about.
Oh, to the ballpark?
Yeah, to Comerica that we'll see in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think they're just constantly tweaking it. The big issue is going to be, will they ever move the fences in? There's probably discussions about that all the time. It's not, as far as I know, unless they've done something in secret in the last few weeks. It's not happening this year. But I would think maybe at some point in terms of a major change. But I just think that the emphasis now is making sure you're a couple decades in, freshen it up, keep it fresh. I love that ballpark. I just love that ballpark. So to me, it doesn't need a whole lot. But at some point, will they move the fences in from 420 in center field? I think it's a possibility. But other than what you mentioned, I don't think there's anything major this year.
Well, a team staying above 500, that'll make it even better, and that's what we're anticipating. Looking forward to your call, just over 2 weeks. Enjoy the rest of the spring. I know it's a hot day out there. We had a pretty decent day yesterday, and we'll hope for good weather on April the 8th?
8th, yes. It's already been 60 and 70, I know, back home while I was down here. So it's going to be 43 or below on opening day.
That's where my money would be if somebody wanted to put that out there. All right, Dan, enjoy it, and thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you down at the ballpark.
All right, Dennis, look forward to seeing you there. Take care, bud.
You too. There he is, Dan Dickerson, joining us here. Great to have him on, and yeah, baseball, when you get that warm weather, you do start thinking about it. And, the best thing, they've got all these different things that they talk about and people argue about with baseball, the ghost runner, don't call it that, or whether you're talking about bigger bases or or what have you, all the different ways that they want to, tweak the game to get younger people to watch it, shorten the game, pitch clocks, all of it. And then, you get people that like baseball going crazy. That they're actually going to have a season and there wasn't that much. I mean, it was getting down to talk about what would have hurt this game more than anything would have been a prolonged. And I did hear people saying, who cares, if they missed the first month or two. No, people care about that. And if this thing was, once college basketball is over and you're sitting out and it would have been May and sitting around thinking about, hey, where's the baseball player? That would have hurt them, but they're playing. And we'll see. Tigers, there's some excitement. Excited all the time here. Well, let's switch gears. Talk a little basketball. Michigan still alive. As you know, it sounds cool to say that they're still alive. They are. Well, it looks like this graph is cut a little bit, but you can look over on the right side of the screen there in Michigan Villanova. That's the South region. To play Houston or Arizona if they're able to get by the Wildcats. Both of those teams. Arizona should have lost or could have lost. It was a tough call there at the end of the regulation where Arizona ended up stealing the ball and going down and getting that dunk. There certainly could have been a call. A foul call on Arizona with like a second to go at half court. You can say you shouldn't call. The ref shouldn't have called it, but he could have. I tend to think that even though you can say that a foul is a foul in the first minute or in the last second, when you're talking about an NCAA tournament game, the right to go to the Sweet 16, and you've got I know people are all over these refs. Make that call. That's a tough call to make. I think they made the correct call there. Here I am standing up for officials and everybody bashing the officials. The ref in the Carolina game got it right with that elbow too. That was the right call. So yeah, there've been some missed calls. Yeah, there are gonna be some missed calls coming up in the Sweet 16 as well. You see the numbers of at least for the odds makers and what they've put in there. Michigan's moved to now getting 5 points against Villanova. I think it started at 4. You can see it at 4.5 yesterday, but it was up to 5. I put that in there right before it came on. So people like Villanova. I was looking at where was I looking? The Athletic. They had their predictions for the games, and I know they have like 12 what look like college basketball writers on there making their picks. How many do you think out of 12 picked Michigan against Villanova? One lousy writer, picked Michigan. So yeah, kind of the same thing as last round. I don't think anybody was picking Michigan against Tennessee, and I don't think there are going to be many picking Michigan against Villanova. And Villanova's been the consistent. They've been consistent all year long. They've got the coach. You watch that team, but the thing about Michigan is, have they played their best basketball? I mean, those are the kind of things you ask yourself. And could they get better play from Caleb Houston? Certainly. And could they have both Devontae Jones and Frankie Collins and the possibility of getting somebody like Terrence Williams coming off the bench? They could. There's a chance that their best basketball is in front of them here, talking about Michigan. And for a second, you just start thinking about, wow, could they beat Villanova? Could they then beat Arizona, a 1 seed who we know that they lost to in Vegas, Kansas? Could they go Nova, Arizona in the Elite 8 to get to the Final Four, and then beat Kansas, and then talking about taking down, let's just say, Gonzaga? Could you imagine if Michigan would beat Villanova, Arizona, Kansas, and Gonzaga? Those would be 3 number ones. That would be earning it. That doesn't seem like it would be in the cards. And sometimes you get a break. Would it be a break if Houston's a really good defensive team, watching them and in the way that they were able to take on or take down Illinois. That's a hell of a defensive team, but would you rather see Houston than Arizona? Yeah, I would think so. Certainly just looking at the seeds. And then maybe you get a break. Now, I don't know about Miami or Iowa State getting to the Final Four or even Providence, but that would seem like a break over Kansas. And, you need those sometimes. But, really, you've got to get down and beat Villanova. And, they got a chance. Just looking at the other games here, the Red Raiders being favored over Duke, which was a little bit of a surprise to me looking at it. You see it's just a slight margin of Arizona over the Cougs, Houston, as you look at it right there. Boilers, big fat 12.5 spread, Jayhawks, and then now you've got the Bruins and the Miami Hurricanes. Pretty close games there. Michigan kind of in the middle. You take a look at all that and how it's expected to go down. So we'll talk more about this tomorrow. Thursday's going to be great. I think for me, it holds the same, the way I've been looking at all of this when it comes to Michigan basketball and the way I've been looking at it. Let's see if I can drag this screen over here. Maybe I can. And make myself smaller. No. It wouldn't let me do it. I went to 4 days of watching basketball from 12 to 12. I tell you, I needed yesterday. I don't often say this, like too much sports, too much basketball. But when you put St. Patty's Day into the first round of the tournament, that Thursday or Friday, it's happened before. I always complain about it. It's just too much. And St. Patrick's Day could stand on its own, and so can the NCAA tournament. If you're somebody that likes checking in at 12 and going all the way for 12 hours with just a little break, and then you have St. Patty's Day put in there, it's just becomes way too much. And so then that was to kick everything off, and then to have to get everything done in the morning before the Friday games, and then stay all the way. And that's shooting past 12 o'clock. So actually, it's more than 12 hours. And some of those late games ended up being, the better games. How this thing worked from, Arizona, Purdue was on late on Saturday, going all the way through, but rolling through those 4 days, being able to watch all of that basketball. Yeah. Yesterday I needed that break, and it's fun just to sit back and now wait till Thursday. Feels we got a little of that football feel to it. You get the big weekend and you just take a breath and you kind of just wait around and you're like, okay. And then a Thursday gets that weekend going pretty quick. Of course, you get the victory, and you're talking about a Thursday, Saturday type situation, which, just makes it awesome. And you go right back at it on Thursday for another, even though the games are on by themselves, you don't get that too much where you got games going on at the same time, but you get another, you get a nice slate there to take a look at when you are the basketball fan. I ended up, I think, screwing that up where it ended up being highlighted. All right. We'll be back with you at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Some good guests talking basketball, talking Michigan basketball here tomorrow. Thanks to Dan Dickerson, talking a little Tigers baseball. And we will talk with you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.